Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the Voice of Reason. Today, we are entering day 125 of the ongoing conflict between the Russian Federation and Ukraine. And today, we continue to see Ukrainian forces now in what appears to be an entrapment operation by Russian forces within the area of Lysychansk. So right now, in terms of Ukrainian forces that are in this Lysychansk pocket, now I understand the pocket has not completely closed on these Ukrainian forces, but I'll try to explain why that really does not matter at this point. But we did see, obviously, Ukrainian forces withdraw from Severodonetsk. A lot of those forces were forced to cross the Donets River by rudimentary means. They had to leave a lot of their heavy equipment behind them in Severodonetsk, and because of the lack of ability to establish bridges that have not already been blown up across the Donets River from Severodonetsk into Lysychansk. And obviously, some of those Ukrainian forces did flee into Lysychansk, and there remains a very credible defensive force of the Ukrainian military within the operational sector of Lysychansk as well. So if you look at right now the main brigades that I would say are at a fairly reasonably high chance that it would be very, very difficult for them to depart or withdraw from Lysychansk, consists of the 111th Territorial Brigade, the 24th Mechanized Brigade. There's also another National Guard Brigade as well. I believe it is the 4th and the 27th. When you see these security SEC in these NATO blocks, that is a Ukrainian National Guard unit. So you have roughly 3 different Ukrainian National Guard elements that were assigned to this sector near Lysychansk. The 15th, and this is a regimental formation, possibly a brigade, given recent losses, probably understrength regimental size. The 27th Brigade, 4th Brigade, and then obviously what I just talked about in terms of the 24th, the 111th, and possibly the 58th Motorized Rifle Brigade as well. So in this pocket, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, we'll just call it 5, roughly 6 Ukrainian brigade combat teams that are, in all probability, trapped in this Lysychansk pocket. Now, obviously, the ability of the Russians to close this pocket, again, it's very hard to say when exactly that will happen, but given the amounts of heavy artillery, the focused efforts of the Russian military in terms of providing tactical air assets to this area, and that makes it very, very difficult for these forces, these 5 to 6 brigades that are trapped in this Lysychansk pocket, to make a orderly withdrawal. And obviously you have this main arterial route from Lysychansk down to Bakhmut, and the Ukrainians have done a fairly good job of preventing Russian forces from completely overrunning this main arterial route. But when you get this close in terms of front lines, basically, if this is the left flank, right flank, and frontal of the Lysychansk sector, again, Russian forces on the left flank have the ability to hit Ukrainian forces all the way to the right flank, and they're also, the right flank is able to hit Ukrainian forces all the way to the left flank as well with heavy artillery. And then obviously the frontal forces as well can hit deeply, roughly right around where the 17th tank brigade is positioned, at least in terms of on this map, with various types of ordinances. So very difficult for Ukrainian forces to mount a orderly withdrawal of its forces without coming under massive and sustained artillery attack. To make matters worse, I just talked about the tactical air assets that were continuing to hit Ukrainian forces over the last 24 hours. We know there's been at least 32 Russian airstrikes on Ukrainian forces in this area. And we also know now that the one thing that was really helping the Ukrainians in this conflict, the drone capability, the TB2 Bayraktar drones. We do know that because of the Russian air defense density now deployed within this sector, namely S-400s, S-300s, books, what have you, the density of these systems has made it very difficult for Ukrainian forces to deploy these high-end drones of Turkish origin against Russian forces. Earlier in the conflict, we did see more success from these TB2 drones, especially after we saw this initial rapid Russian advance where Russian forces really kind of got ahead of its air defense capability, and that allowed the Ukrainians to use these TB2 Bayraktar drones. The Russian strategy has changed, so they are not moving ahead of their air defense capability. So if the Ukrainians were to deploy, let's say, ground attack aircraft, which would be shot down almost immediately, especially in this area. Obviously, we have seen the Ukrainian, some fixed-wing Ukrainian aircraft operating more towards Odessa and Kherson and that area, where the air defense density is not the same as it is in this sector of operation. So very difficult for the Ukrainian military to provide both drone capability and tactical air assets because of just the Russian air defenses that continue to be very dense in this area of operation. But that's really it right now in terms of what's happening on the ground. The Russians are continuing to prosecute this offensive with the intent of seizing control of Lysychansk. The main efforts still are coming north of Popasna as they look to eventually sever this main arterial route, and obviously they have done that as well with the use of a lot of artillery. And unfortunately for the Ukrainian military right now, they are at a great risk of losing elements of 5 combat brigades in this operation if they can't find a way to somehow get them out of this sector that is being rapidly enveloped. And then again, we also don't know the fighting strength of some of these brigade-sized elements. There could be also other units that are involved in this operation as well, meaning Ukrainian brigades that are not listed on this map in terms of special operations forces and what have you. But right now the situation is really incredibly dire for those Ukrainian forces. Now, what I also wanted to talk about in this episode is kind of the nature of war, and in terms of what we're seeing. And obviously we have seen recently, especially in terms of Ukrainian reporting in terms of civilian targets that have been reportedly hit by Russian cruise missiles. Now you have to understand, again, within the confines of this conflict, it is incredibly brutal. You are looking at 2 industrialized nation states slugging it out in a very high intensity campaign right now. And the likelihood that civilians are going to be killed, and if you go back to my earlier videos, I try to warn the watching public that indeed you are going to see this sort of thing happen, and it's going to happen on both sides of the coin. We have reports and we have video evidence that shows Ukrainian forces launching artillery strikes on targets in the eastern Russian separatist areas as well. We have seen the Ukrainians launch multiple Tocha ballistic missiles that have far less greater accuracy than, say, the Russian Iskander system that is being deployed. So the risk that these weapon systems can strike civilian targets is very, very high. And we will continue to see this happen throughout the conflict. It is a war, unfortunately. And by the nature of industrialized war in which we are seeing right now, it has not changed. I understand we are in this high-tech age where the perception is that you can utilize these very precise instruments of war that have a circular area probability of 3 to 5 meters. But the reality is, in the current conflict that we're seeing, where both sides are jamming GPS signals and GLONASS signals, and the possibility of failure of systems is also prevalent, that inherently we are going to see civilian targets be hit on both sides. Go back to World War II, where the United States had firebombed a multitude of both Japanese and German cities. Look at Dresden, look at Tokyo, look at the nuclear weapons that were used by the United States against 2 Japanese cities. And I'm not trying to argue the validity of the United States' use of nuclear weapons against the Japanese. I am just trying to articulate that inherently in massive industrialized war, you are going to see civilian targets become the victims of industrialized war. And it's unfortunately what we are seeing right now. And we will, in all probability, continue to see that as well. And I do understand that. Not going to get in it. I'll do another video on that. But anyway, that's kind of where we're sitting right now. Just strictly from the military viewpoint. Again, watching this Sloviansk, Lysychansk, Bakhmut triangle very, very closely. I think Ukrainian forces right now are at great risk in maintaining this pocket, and I'm not sure that a prudent decision-making process was thought through thoroughly in terms of conducting a tactical retreat along the M3 defensive perimeter, which would run from Sloviansk towards Bakhmut. I believe at this point there may have been a strategic error on the part of the Ukrainian General Staff, which is going to quite possibly allow Ukrainian forces, especially in the Lysychansk sector, to be enveloped and or taken prisoner or destroyed in the coming days and weeks. But anyway, that's kind of where we sit right now. We will continue to monitor, report, and bring you content for your consumption. Thanks for joining us. Have a good day.